Introduction. If you can, and if it isn't too painful, try to picture yourself as you were in your childhood. Were you a happy child? Were you prone to having tantrums? Was attention showered on you without even asking for it? Or did you feel apart from others, isolated, vulnerable? Is there trauma there that is difficult to think about? Now think about your journey and yourself as you are now as an adult. How different is this new picture of yourself from your childhood self? Are there behaviors you carry out now similar to those you did as a child? You may very well see similarities. No matter how old you get, your inner child will remain a part of you. Your inner child carries with it the experiences of your past and the emotions related to those experiences. Psychologists increasingly recognize the inner child as a critical part of any adult's personality. It is a part of ourselves that we often neglect in adulthood when our attention becomes naturally directed towards work, relationships, and any other responsibilities that we may have. Perhaps when you picture your inner child, it isn't as happy as you would like. Maybe you hold in your mind's eye an image of a child who is crying, a child who is frightened, vulnerable, and hasn't been treated fairly. Remember that what you are looking at is a part of yourself. If you were to encounter such an upset child in your own life, one who was struggling and alone, wouldn't you take the time to offer them some compassion? Unfortunately, many of us treat ourselves very differently than we would treat others. We don't notice our inner child, even though it deserves as much compassion as others. By healing our inner child, we can heal ourselves, moving away from past hurt and trauma and encouraging the sides of our personalities that are the most free-spirited and joyous. In this book, you will find the tools and techniques you need to build a new relationship with this delicate side of your personality. I have drawn on my years of experience in life coaching when collating these strategies. I've seen firsthand how much joy, self-esteem, and self-love adults can gain by nurturing their inner child. I now want to share this process with others so that many people can feel the same fulfillment. I'd love for you to join me on this self-healing journey. I will show you how you can achieve the following. Understand your inner child. They are of your personality, a part that requires love and attention. Embrace techniques for healing that have proven effectiveness. Learn to accept and live with past trauma and how you can move on from it. Create your workbook that will be your guide and companion throughout your healing journey. Take control over feelings of abandonment. Rebuild your trust for others and learn to build new, fulfilling, healthy relationships. Foster your independence and manage your well-being. Keep dedicated and focused on your growth journey by setting healthy goals and overcoming obstacles. Many techniques you will read about are cognitive behavior therapy, CBT forms. If you are unaware of CBT, then you can rest assured that it is considered by psychologists to be the gold standard of therapy techniques. CBT encourages you to recognize that your thoughts and feelings often cause you the most pain rather than your real-life circumstances. CBT encourages you to change your relationship with your thoughts by reflecting upon them, placing less value upon them, and determining alternative, more positive thoughts that may be more likely to be true. As an example, so you can better understand the techniques I employ in this book, imagine that you are a therapy patient who has anxiety about an upcoming job interview. This anxiety is so intense that you are unable to sleep or concentrate on preparation. Your professional support figure, in encouraging you to exchange your relationship with your thoughts, would ask you to reflect on the specifics of what is causing you so much anxiety. Perhaps you believe you are not good enough for the job you are applying for. By taking the time to list and analyze that thought, you can better judge its value. You can then spend time considering alternative thoughts. Would you have been offered the interview if your employer didn't think you were good enough? Is it not okay to come into a job without knowing everything that will be expected of you? Is the interview perhaps a chance to explore aspects of the job in more detail so that you can better assess whether you are ready for it? CBT works best when it is a personalized process, one that reflects your own goals, wishes, and needs. I employ CBT techniques alongside inner child healing for precisely this reason. Many psychologists believe that many of the negative behaviors and benefits we hold in adulthood stem directly from our inner child. Using CBT to heal both the childhood you and the adult you maximizes its effectiveness. Throughout this book, you will use CBT to speak directly to your inner child so that you can better understand and sympathize with them. The techniques you will learn are practical and effective. They will take you on a healing journey that encourages you not to be frightened of your past, but to grow from it. At the same time, you will awaken the child within you that you have forgotten is there. If you commit yourself to this path, I promise the process will be transformative for your emotional well-being. Always remember you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. A. Milne. Chapter 1. Understanding the Inner Child. The wounds of the past are not just memories. They shape our present and future. To heal, we must revisit and comfort our inner child. John Bradshaw. Your inner child can sometimes be challenging to understand. Children are not always rational. They say and do things based on their instincts and gut reactions and rarely consider the risks or problems in their actions. Your inner child is no different, and it continues to act beneath the surface, even as your adult brain tries to think, reason, and process. I remember an argument I had not too long ago with my partner. It was silly. We were planning a vacation, but neither could decide where to go. I wanted to go overseas, while he wanted to go somewhere closer to home. Of course, I understood his point of view on a national level. We had to think about how much it would cost and how much travel our children would be able to cope with. I knew we had to come to a compromise, and we talked about the reasons for our opinions. But just because I could act rationally and communicate the problem with him didn't mean that my inner child was silent. Mine wanted to tantrum. It wanted to scream about all her hard work that year, which meant she deserved the holiday she wanted. She didn't want to listen. She just wanted her way. That side of my personality remained internal, thank goodness. But that doesn't mean it wasn't there. We always react emotionally to events and conversations before fully considering them, and our inner child isn't always wrong. It just experiences life differently. It is free-spirited and experiences life in the moment. Sometimes it projects our deepest impulses, wants, wishes, and joys. Our inner child understands fun. It's the part of us that tells us to turn the laundry into a game, throwing clothes into the laundry basket from the furthest distance possible, just for fun. It's the part of us telling us to enjoy the sunshine and close our laptops for an hour or two. It's also the part of us that holds some of our deepest anxieties. The voice tells us to run away from things, even if they aren't dangerous. For the positive and negative aspects of our lives, our inner child is there, whether we like it or not, driving our decisions. The impact of childhood trauma. Unfortunately, not everyone gets to have a happy childhood. If picturing your inner child causes you pain, then my heart goes out to you. Childhood trauma can have a long-term effect on mental well-being throughout adulthood. Without realizing it, many adults who have experienced childhood trauma can find themselves permanently locked into some level of fight or flight response. This is a condition in which the brain and body engage when coping with danger, an automatic response that causes adrenaline to enter the blood, causes the heart rate to increase, and triggers instinctive reactions to perceived danger. For people locked in this state, it can be challenging to consider the long-term effects of their life choices. Those locked into this fight or flight response are more likely to experience depression, stress, and anxiety than others. This long-lasting side effect of childhood trauma can even have an impact on physical health, causing strain on your body's vital organs. Thankfully, childhood trauma can be healed. Research in psychology has proven that accepting trauma, understanding what it looks like, and how it continues to affect our life can help adults move on from it. The process of acceptance isn't easy, but the fact that you have picked up this book shows me that you are in the right frame of mind to begin this process. Perhaps your inner child is wounded, it wants to be carefree and joyful, but it is restricted by fear, which has been a learned behavior due to the experience of your past. There are ways to move past this, but first, it is necessary to understand a little more about trauma and the ways that different trauma can have an impact on your life. I hope you are ready to explore this. Take a deep breath if you need to relax before carrying on. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. Theodore Roosevelt. Exercise 1. How to recognize the impact of childhood trauma. Sometimes understanding why you're struggling emotionally or mentally can be challenging. Perhaps you can identify trauma in your past, but how can you be sure that this trauma is continuing to affect you? Contacting a mental health professional for an accurate diagnosis is also essential. Still, there are ways that you can personally attempt to understand your feelings better and engage with the trauma in your past. To begin with, consider some of the more common forms of trauma that children experience. Below is a brief list that you may relate to. Consider your experiences, if you are able, and see if any of the below forms of trauma are something you may have dealt with. Try writing the headings below on the space following the exercise. At this stage, you don't need to relive any traumatic events, but list the thoughts and emotions that come to mind as you read through the descriptions. This will help to promote emotional awareness, which will be essential for many of the techniques throughout this book. Abuse. Abuse can be sexual, physical, psychological, or emotional. Some forms of abuse, such as coercion and controlling behaviors, can be more challenging to recognize than others. Parents' relationships. Divorce and separation can significantly impact a child's life. The feelings of loss, insecurity, and instability that can come with these experiences can continue to linger into adulthood. Economic changes. Growing up in an impoverished household or experiencing homelessness early in life can leave deep and lasting impressions on the individuals who experience it. It can lead to the development of a poverty mindset, a state of thinking that can lead someone to be restrictively averse to risk and prevent them from seeking new opportunities due to the fear that they could return to the impoverished state of living they once experienced. Other household challenges. Witnessing substance misuse, severe mental health issues, abuse of another person, and the loss of a dependent or loved one can all lead to long-lasting trauma. Traumatic events. Even a one-off experience of violence, terrorism, or a natural disaster can cause a state of shock to the system that can be difficult to recover from. Types of trauma can be broad, and the list above is far from comprehensive. Your trauma may not look exactly as the descriptions above, but if you believe that it's continuing to affect you as an adult, then it's worth attempting to identify. Please do take your time, however, when thinking about trauma. If reading anything in the list above has caused a spike in your anxiety or stress levels, then take some time before progressing through this section. Month 1, Week 1, Date. Now that you've taken some time to think about whether you have experienced trauma in the past, I've provided a new list to consider below. This list details some of the most common long-term emotional impacts of childhood trauma. Read through them carefully and consider if any reflect your daily experiences. Unexplained emotional shifts. It is difficult for anyone to control their emotions. We are all animals. We are driven by impulse with brains that produce mood-affecting chemicals. It is expected to move through different emotions throughout the day. Still, if you are struggling to identify the source of your emotional shifts, or if they seem to be wildly unpredictable and extreme, it's possible that they could be linked to past trauma. Consider whether something you've encountered during your day has triggered an emotional response rooted in a childhood experience. Unexpected reactions to stimulus. Have you ever met someone and felt immediately unsettled by them? Perhaps before they've even had a chance to say or do anything, you begin to feel unsafe around them and avoid them. Alternatively, maybe a particular setting has caused you to have an unexplained reaction, even a setting that can appear safe, such as a classroom or a doctor's office. You may have a repressed childhood association with this stimuli that has caused your inner child to react. Persistent exhaustion. If you spend a lot of time in your life engaged in a fight or flight response, then your body may be experiencing the toll of this. Living with high levels of stress chemicals in your body can cause it to burn energy faster than the average person and leave you feeling tired more often than you would like. A lack of coping mechanisms. Have you ever had something upcoming in your life that you are so stressed about that you can hardly cope? Some people experience anxiety, fear, and depression to such intensity that they are unable to function. Other people may be just as anxious, yet can process that anxiety in a way that impacts them less. For those who unfortunately experience emotions in such an extreme way, it can be incredibly frustrating to see others seemingly cope so easily. Some adults have developed coping strategies for negative emotions without realizing it. Others simply aren't restricted by past traumas that continue to affect them. If you do not have those exact coping mechanisms, this does not make you less confident or weaker. It could simply be an effect of significant past trauma. Did anything you read above strike a chord with you? Identification can be difficult, as it requires you to revisit past events that might be uncomfortable or painful. But trust me, it is an integral part of the process. The difficulties you experience now will be justified by the healing and progress to follow. One final strategy to consider knowing if your inner child is in pain is to take the time to listen to them. Picture the childhood version in your head right now. Are they frightened, anxious, or sad? Does even thinking about your childhood cause you pain? If so, then you could still benefit from healing your inner child, even if you are unable to currently identify any specific trauma and its continued influence on your life and well-being. Healing childhood trauma. Unfortunately, childhood neglect, trauma, and abuse can lead to poor self-perception and self-esteem. The correlation between an experience of child abuse and long-term self-esteem issues has been proven through research in psychology. However, how a lack of self-esteem expresses itself can vary wildly between different adults. For instance, some adults who have experienced intense trauma in childhood may struggle to practice self care. As they did not experience a nurturing and loving environment when they were younger, they may be unaware of how to simulate this experience for themselves as adults through games and hobbies. Other adults may struggle to set goals or see their path towards career or relationship fulfillment as important. This may be rooted in childhood circumstances that require them to deal with more responsibility than most children, such as having a care role for a parent or sibling. These adults may struggle to perceive themselves as entities with personal needs and ambitions. If you've experienced trauma in your life, then your pain is a personal experience.